The sea air carried a hint of salt and spring warmth through the portholes as Charles Frohman sat at his table in the grand dining room of the RMS Lusitania. The ship, an engineering marvel of its time, was on the final leg of its journey from New York to Liverpool, cutting gracefully through the waters of the Celtic Sea. Frohman, the theater impresario known for bringing Peter Pan to the stage, was entertaining a group of friends and admirers as he had done every day since leaving New York. With his cane resting against the polished wood paneling, he leaned forward, his voice animated as he shared tales from the theater, stories of actors, opening nights, and his love for the career he'd dedicated over 40 years of his life. At 2:10 p.m., a sharp, unnatural jolt shattered the elegant tranquility. The Lusitania shuddered violently as a German torpedo struck the starboard side as passengers attempted to reorient themselves following the sudden shock. The fine china on the table crashed to the floor, and the previously spirited conversations turned into panicked cries as passengers attempted to reorient themselves following the sudden shock. Frohman rose suddenly, albeit with some difficulty, his cane steadying his balance as pandemonium erupted around him. Passengers surged toward the decks, their fear palpable. Despite his own limited mobility from a fall years earlier, Frohman remained composed. By the time he reached the promenade deck, smoke curled from the ship's wounded hull, and lifeboats dangled precariously in the chaos. He lit a cigar, exuding an unshakable calm. Beside him stood Alfred Vanderbilt, another man of prominence, and together they turned their attention to the ship's nursery. With steady hands, they tied life jackets to Moses baskets, securing infants in a desperate bid to give them a chance at survival. As the deck tilted ominously, Frohman clasped hands with actress Rita Jolivet, who had been part of his traveling party. In those final, harrowing moments, Frohman looked at Jolivet, paraphrasing the words from his most famous play, "Why fear death? It is the most beautiful adventure that life gives us." As the Lusitania slipped beneath the Irish Sea, a colossal wave swept the deck. Frohman, Vanderbilt, and so many others disappeared beneath the sea. Only Jolivet would survive, left alone to await rescue. Before we could take to the skies, our oceans were dominated by great liners like the RMS Lusitania, giving millions of people the ability to reach a new world. At the turn of the 20th century, the North Atlantic was a bustling highway of ocean liners ferrying passengers, mail, and goods between Europe and the Americas. These grand vessels symbolized innovation, luxury, and progress, catering to both the elite and waves of immigrants seeking new opportunities. For many, ocean travel wasn't just a means of transportation, it was an event. First-class passengers enjoyed opulent dining halls, grand suites, and promenades, while third-class travelers often endured more modest accommodations below deck. Regardless of class, these liners were marvels of engineering, showcasing national pride and industrial prowess. The Cunard Line, established in 1840 by Samuel Cunard, was a pioneer in ocean travel, introducing steam-powered ships that revolutionized transatlantic crossings. By the early 1900s, Cunard faced fierce competition from German lines like Norddeutscher Lloyd and Hamburg America, whose larger, faster ships threatened British dominance. Determined to reclaim their position, Cunard secured funding from the British government to build two groundbreaking ships, Lusitania and her sister ship, Mauretania. These vessels were designed not only to outpace their rivals, but also to serve as auxiliary cruisers in wartime. Construction of the Lusitania began in 1904 at the John Brown and Company shipyard in Clydebank, Scotland. The ship's design, led by Leonard Pesquet, incorporated innovative turbine engines that offered unmatched speed and reduced vibration compared to traditional reciprocating engines. With a steel hull, 23 boilers, and 4 towering funnels, the Lusitania was a technical marvel capable of carrying nearly 2,200 passengers. Her launch in 1906 was a spectacle, with thousands of onlookers cheering as she slid into the Clyde River. Following extensive sea trials, which revealed and addressed issues like stern vibrations, she entered service in 1907 as one of the largest and fastest ships in the world. The Lusitania's maiden voyage from Liverpool to New York was a triumph, earning acclaim for her speed, crossing the Atlantic in just over 5 days, and her lavish interiors. Designed to rival the finest hotels, her first-class amenities included a grand dining saloon adorned with neoclassical decor, a luxurious lounge, and even a veranda cafe. Second and third-class passengers also enjoyed more comfortable accommodations compared to other ships of the era, making the Lusitania popular among immigrants and tourists alike. Over the next 8 years, the Lusitania completed 201 transatlantic crossings, carrying over 260,000 passengers. She transported royalty, celebrities, and industrialists, as well as thousands seeking new lives in the Americas. Despite her success, the ship faced challenges, including weather delays, mechanical issues, and minor collisions. However, she remained a symbol of luxury and reliability, embodying the golden age of ocean travel. As Europe teetered on the brink of war in 1914, the Lusitania continued her voyages, unaware of the conflict that would forever alter her fate and the world's perception of the high seas. The U-20, commanded by Captain Lieutenant Walter Schwieger, prowled the waters off the southern coast of Ireland on May 7, 1915. Schwieger, a seasoned yet unyielding submariner, was part of Germany's campaign of unrestricted U-boat warfare. This strategy allowed attacks on civilian and merchant vessels without warning, aiming to disrupt Britain's critical supply lines. Germany's decision to employ this aggressive tactic had already drawn international condemnation, but was seen as essential to countering the British naval blockade. U-20 had departed Emden, Germany on April 30, 1915, embarking on a mission to patrol the shipping lanes near Liverpool. By May 5th, Schwieger's submarine had already claimed the Earl of Latham and the SS Candidate, and he issued warnings to the SS Centurion before sinking it. Despite his actions, Schwieger's logbook entries revealed moments of restraint, such as sparing faster vessels he could not effectively target. As the U-20 approached the waters near the Old Head of Kinsale on May 7th, its fuel reserves and torpedo stock were dwindling. Schwieger, considering retreat, spotted a massive vessel on the horizon through his periscope, the RMS Lusitania. Departing from New York on May 1, 1915, the Lusitania carried nearly 2,000 passengers and crew, including prominent figures such as Alfred Vanderbilt, theater producer Charles Frohman, and British actress Rita Jolivet. Among the passengers were families, business people, and children, with 124 young lives on board. Passengers enjoyed opulent accommodations and entertainment, seemingly undeterred by the German embassy's warnings and U.S. newspapers advising against travel on British ships. Captain William Thomas Turner, known for his no-nonsense demeanor, commanded the Lusitania. Confident in the liner's ability to outpace any submarine, Turner implemented standard precautions as the ship entered the declared war zone near Ireland. Lifeboats were swung out, extra lookouts posted, and a blackout ordered at night. However, the ship's speed had been reduced to conserve coal, and Turner had not ordered zigzagging, a recommended evasive maneuver against submarine attacks. Turner's stoic confidence reassured many, though some passengers, such as Rita Jolivet and Alfred Vanderbilt, received cryptic warnings before boarding that they chose to dismiss. On the morning of May 7th, the weather was clear, though a light haze lingered over the sea. By early afternoon, the Lusitania approached the Irish coast, and many passengers gathered on deck to glimpse land. Schwieger's U-20 submerged at 11 a.m., evading a nearby patrol boat. At 1:20 p.m., Schwieger spotted the Lusitania, its towering funnels unmistakable, and maneuvered his submarine into position. At 2:10 p.m., from a distance of 700 meters, Schwieger ordered a single torpedo fired. The torpedo struck the Lusitania's starboard bow near the bridge. Survivors described a sudden and violent explosion that sent debris soaring. Moments later, a second, more powerful detonation rocked the ship. While the exact cause remains debated, possible munitions or coal dust ignitions, the effect was catastrophic. Water poured into the breached hull, and the Lusitania began listing sharply to starboard. Amid the chaos, Charles Frohman, Alfred Vanderbilt, Rita Jolivet, and their companions became emblematic of the human drama on board. Frohman, suffering from leg pain, refused to leave the railing near the veranda cafe. Calm and composed, he paraphrased a line from Peter Pan to Rita, saying, "Why fear death? It is the most beautiful adventure." He gave his life jacket to a passing woman before being swept away. Rita Jolivet, clutching a life jacket and a pearl-handled pistol she had brought in case of the worst, managed to survive by clinging to an overturned lifeboat. She later recalled how the water forcefully parted her from Frohman and others, sweeping her boots from her feet as she struggled to stay afloat. Alfred Vanderbilt, despite not knowing how to swim, gave his life jacket to a mother and child. Witnesses reported his calm demeanor, even as the ship's list grew steeper. His selfless actions became one of the enduring stories of the disaster, though his body was never recovered. Meanwhile, saloon passenger Margaret Mackworth helped others to lifeboats, only to be thrown into the sea herself. She clung to debris for hours before being rescued. Captain Turner remained on the bridge, attempting to steer the ship toward the Irish coast. As the ship's power failed, he continued giving orders, ensuring that every possible action was taken to save lives. When the bridge was finally submerged, Turner was washed into the sea, but survived, later found clinging to wreckage. Schwieger, observing the chaos through his periscope aboard U-20, recorded in his log that he could not fire a second torpedo into the mass of humanity struggling in the water. The RMS Lusitania went down in just 18 minutes, leaving chaos in its wake. Survivors clung to debris, struggling in the frigid waters off the coast of Ireland. Local fishing boats and rescue vessels from the nearby town of Queenstown, later renamed to Cobh, rushed to the scene, pulling survivors from the sea and recovering the dead. Many survivors were plucked from collapsible lifeboats and rafts, such as those piloted by Charles Frohman, who described the haunting sound of the cries in the water as a long, lingering moan. Elizabeth Duckworth, aboard Lifeboat 21, convinced her crew to save a man in the water and later volunteered to help rescue others. Small fishing vessels like the Wanderer of Peel and the larger Flying Fish played critical roles in retrieving survivors, though the grim task of recovering bodies often overshadowed the heroism of the rescue efforts. Junior Third Officer Bestick, adrift in a collapsible boat, recounted rescuing a distraught mother who had lost her baby. Her anguish almost led her to drown herself, but a lie from another survivor, assuring her the baby had been saved, helped her hold on. As the hours wore on, other ships like the Bluebell and the Stormcock, yes, I double-checked, that's the actual name, arrived to transport survivors to safety. Yet even in these moments of salvation, grief persisted. Passengers like Margaret Mackworth woke aboard rescue vessels, grappling with the magnitude of the tragedy. Over 1,100 people, including 120 Americans, perished. Bodies washed ashore along the coast of southern Ireland, filling the docks of Queenstown and overwhelming morgues. Unfortunately, many victims were never identified following their recovery. Meanwhile, the German U-20 evaded capture. Schwieger, reportedly shaken by the Lusitania's rapid sinking, recorded the event in his log, but remained radio silent until approaching Germany. Although the attack was initially celebrated in German propaganda, dissenting voices within Germany criticized the action as excessive. By the time U-20 reached Wilhelmshaven, Germany was facing a storm of international condemnation. To avoid escalating tensions with the United States, Kaiser Wilhelm II suspended unrestricted submarine warfare temporarily, though incidents like the sinking of the RMS Hesperian by U-20 a few months later reignited controversy. News of the sinking spread rapidly, shocking the world. In the United States, headlines decried the attack as a brutal act of war. President Woodrow Wilson, while condemning the loss of American lives, urged restraint, coining the phrase, "too proud to fight." This position sparked debate within the US, where public opinion began to shift against Germany. Diplomatic protests emphasized the sinking's impact, particularly as Germany's justification that the Lusitania carried contraband failed to account for the loss of civilian lives. While some Germans, such as Bernhard Dernberg, defended the attack, many prominent German figures and publications decried it, and internal divisions within Germany's leadership highlighted the broader ethical and strategic consequences. The Lusitania's sinking profoundly influenced World War I. Though it did not directly bring the United States into the conflict, it catalyzed public opinion and marked a turning point in the debate over Germany's wartime conduct. When Germany resumed unrestricted submarine warfare in 1917, the US entered the war, tipping the balance of power in favor of the Allies. The disaster also altered perceptions of ocean liners during wartime. Once viewed as safe passage, such vessels were increasingly seen as legitimate targets if carrying military supplies, blurring the line between civilian and military assets. Today, the wreck of the Lusitania lies on its starboard side, 305 feet beneath the Irish Sea. The ship's deteriorated hull and collapsed superstructure serve as a stark reminder of the tragedy. While salvage efforts have recovered artifacts, the site remains a somber memorial to the 1,198 lives lost. Controversy persists over whether the ship secretly carried munitions, as the Germans claimed, adding layers of intrigue to its legacy. Modern expeditions reveal the wreck's declining state, with much of its structure eroded by winter tides. Yet some features, like the ship's name and remaining propeller, endure as poignant relics. The Lusitania's story continues to resonate as a symbol of the human cost of war. It reminds us of the fragile boundary between civilian and military realms, the devastating consequences of unrestrained conflict, and the enduring need to learn from history. More than a century later, its legacy serves as a cautionary tale about the moral and strategic decisions that define wartime and the enduring impact of those decisions on generations to come. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end of the video. If you found this story interesting and want to explore other historical people, places, and events, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. I'd also love to hear from you. Drop a comment below telling me which topics you'd like me to cover in future episodes. I'm trying to build a community around these videos, so any thoughts on topics or ways to improve the videos are more than welcome. Your support makes this channel possible, and I'm so excited to continue sharing incredible stories with you. Captain William Thomas Turner, known for his no-nonsense demeanor, commanded the Lusitania. Confident in the liner's ability to outpace any submarine, Turner implemented standard precautions as the ship entered the declared war zone near Ireland. Lifeboats were swung out, extra lookouts posted, and a blackout ordered at night. However, the ship's speed had been reduced to conserve coal, and Turner had not ordered zigzagging, a recommended evasive maneuver against submarine attacks. Turner's stoic confidence reassured many, though some passengers, such as Rita Jolivet and Alfred Vanderbilt, received cryptic warnings before boarding that they chose to dismiss. On the morning of May 7th, the weather was clear, though a light haze lingered over the sea. By early afternoon, the Lusitania approached the Irish coast, and many passengers gathered on deck to glimpse land. Schwieger's U-20 submerged at 11 a.m., evading a nearby patrol boat. At 1:20 p.m., Schwieger spotted the Lusitania, its towering funnels unmistakable, and maneuvered his submarine into position. At 2:10 p.m., from a distance of 700 meters, Schwieger ordered a single torpedo fired,